From the Post-Millennial, the porn industry backs Kamala with a new $100,000 ad campaign. The website for the campaign states boldly that conservatives are working to criminalize porn. Hands off my porn, says porn company.
100,000.
The Hands Off My Porn campaign is hoping that its efforts will sway the voting intentions of young men voters. Data from the Survey Center on American Life found that 44% of men aged 18 to 29 and 57% of men 30 to 49 had watched pornography in the last month. The website for the campaign states boldly that conservatives are working to criminalize porn. We must fight back against this ultra-conservative agenda that is rooted in religious conservatism.
I wish.
Well, they're not. And it is kind of funny, though, that Kamala, this is not good for the Kamala Harris campaign. I'm sorry. When the porn industry comes out and says, we're backing Kamala Harris, it just makes you look bad to the suburban women that Trump and Kamala are fighting over for this election.
No, it's true. I mean, this could appeal to a small percentage of people on the far left, but your average American, even though clearly porn has infected and destroyed so much of our country's thinking, your average American is still grossed out by discussing it at the very least. And the fact that porn pushers are endorsing this woman, I mean, I'll put it to you this way, all right? When they're talking about how conservatives want to ban porn, I think that would be great, but the conservative movement right now is not trying to ban porn. What they have done is ask for age verification, and in certain states, they require age verification. And what has Pornhub done? They've said, we will no longer service this state. You will no longer be able to watch porn in a state as an adult if that state asks for an ID. Now, why would they do that? Because the entire purpose of their model is to get minors to watch it and get addicted. They are predators and they are groomers. Of course, they're endorsing Kamala Harris.
Young and early. And I think that's important to point out because they're saying it's a religious thing, like conservatives are religious and therefore they don't like porn. But I actually think there's a very serious secular conversation around the way especially young men are impacted by early exposure to porn and the long-term effects it has on their relationships. Like this is something that studies have proven time and time again that exposure to porn and frequent use of porn has a long-term consequence for the emotional and psychological well-being of young men in America. This is at a time when our Surgeon General declared that we have a loneliness epidemic. It's not, you don't have to be religious to see that this is not a system that is sustainable for happy, healthy culture.
And
Well,
it
you
is
know
actually
what? If this is going to hurt Kamala, then I think it's a good thing. I think they should go. I think they should also have a rally for Kamala. Porno stars for Kamala.
You think she should speak at that rally?
Yes, they should. All the porn
Well, she
stars
wouldn't
should come
call her
out.
daddy.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I think, young men have a great opportunity these days. I hear a lot in the media about young men are having a hard time dating. Women aren't dating. Fertility is way down. There's this crazy story. Joe Rogan had a clip from his podcast where they're talking about the fertility collapse and all that stuff. And I'm like, that basically means that like any young guy right now has no competition and he could just better himself, start exercising, eating right, try and work to get a good job. And then he's probably got the pick of the litter. Is that the argument or what am I missing here?
I think a few things. First things first, $100,000 is peanuts to...
That's not what I was talking about just now. I was talking about the dating scene, but sure, go on.
And the dating stream, the downstream effects of it too, but $100K for this industry is peanuts. Something about the ID thing that you were, or the age requirements that you were saying, they're actually requiring like government issued ID to get by some of these porn sites.
Yeah.
I don't, there are obviously issues with porn. I don't think we should be banning them. I think the issue here is the ubiquity of this stuff on all of our, in our lives, particularly on social media. And then for the hardcore stuff, the soft core stuff and the ubiquity of that on Twitter, Instagram, and social media, it's like almost like you can't miss it. And that downstream effect on dating, I think is huge and needs to be addressed or we'll keep seeing issues with people dating.
Yeah, so the age verification laws do require IDs, but I find it ironic that the opposition to that we hear from the porn industry is that that's a violation of a person's privacy when they are showing women's privates to millions and millions of people. They don't care about privacy. What they care about is getting minors addicted to pornography. So I wholeheartedly support the age verification laws, and I think these porn companies pulling out of states over it is very telling about what their MO is.
The technology mixing in with porn is what I think is influencing our society faster than we could sort of legislate this, because when we were children, the only way to access this type of material was sort of at a gas station behind a curtain with a magazine or anything. We didn't have easy access to the internet or websites like these, or even social media. This wasn't that prolific on social media too. So I don't know how I feel about an outright ban across the board and the downstream effects of that. But the ubiquity here is something to be concerned about too. And how I feel like the everyday woman, I feel like
Well, but you're
feels compelled to
referencing these like curtains, right? Like this was true of like video stores that have a back room, and you had
even
to be
gas
a certain,
stations.
You had to be a certain age to go in. So in some ways, to me, adding this kind of curtain to porn site is the same thing. Like it's the bare minimum to make sure that minors are not gaining access to something. And I think this idea that it's, you know, a privacy issue is so weird. I think it was Louisiana. Louisiana already had a way to have a virtual driver's license, like an uploaded copy. And so for a while, Pornhub was still operating there, despite the fact that they passed an age requirement, because they were like, well, this one argument that we have that you're going to have to like submit your government ID to the internet, and that could be a privacy thing, didn't matter. It already existed.
It should be a national thing, though, right?
I mean, I like when things are legislated at the state level. I think that's important for the sovereignty of the states. But I agree with you. I think it should be common. It should be everywhere.
To protect children, to combat sex trafficking, they should probably make it a national thing. National. Because it is to protect the children.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just want to mention this because obviously I'm very open about the fact that I'm Catholic, but I think it's actually,
Catholic?
I think it's really insulting to non-religious people to suggest that this is something only religious people want. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of non-religious people, I would even say most of them in this country, who would say kids shouldn't be watching this stuff. There needs to be something in place to prevent that.
Mm-hmm. But it just speaks to the fact that our culture has changed a lot on this issue. And I think similarly to the Call Her Daddy podcast, like our attitudes towards sex are very rapidly evolving. And in some ways, I think there are some things that are happening where culture is looking around and being misled. This is not this like fun liberation period that they said it would be. This is actually very dark, and it's leading us to sad consequences.
And you know what? The economy is doing so bad. There are a lot of people who want to get into porn because they are struggling. Mm-hmm. They can't afford to buy eggs. They can't afford to buy groceries. They can't pay their rent, their mortgage because of this terrible economy. I've seen people on the internet talk about they are really considering doing porn because this economy is so bad. So Kamala is probably the reason why people are starting to do more porn.
But that's a lie.
It's not worth it.
But it's a lie.
That you make money?
Yeah, that you make money. It's not true. It's like all industries, people look at, I get this all the time too. People are like, oh, wow, YouTube, you get so much money, when you make YouTube videos. And then they're like, I've been doing YouTube videos for 3 months and I have 10 views per video. I can't make any money. And it's like, not everybody does. Most people don't. The problem is, if you start a YouTube channel or Rumble channel and you're like, in today's news, Donald Trump does a backflip and you get no views, what's the worst case scenario? Your friends might be like, hey, Jay, remember when Jim was trying to do the news videos? And you're like, I wish it would have worked out. I would have had fun. And then you laugh and you order pizza and you watch the game. Now imagine if you're a woman, or a guy, I guess, and you're like, wow, I'm going to do OnlyFans. And then it doesn't work out. And then everyone's going to be like, yeah, dude, we know what you were trying to do for money.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy about that in the future.
Yeah.
So I actually knew this woman 10 years ago or whatever, back when you had, it wasn't like OnlyFans, but it existed. And she's on Facebook posting about how she's broke and desperate. And then I don't talk to her for a while. Next time I see her, she's talking about how she tried doing webcam stuff. She made no money. She was making like $30 to $300 a month. Did not help her in any way. And all it did was result in like thousands of videos of her body all over the internet she could never get rid of.
Embarrassing. Yeah. Imagine that.
Humiliating. Beyond embarrassing.
Imagine stooping that low to show your ass on camera.
Yeah.
And then it don't work.
Mm-hmm. Or imagine a family member. Imagine a woman you knew did that. Just the shame that would bring upon your family. One thing that we can all agree on across the political spectrum is that doing porn will significantly decrease your quality of life.
And chances of dating as well.
That's right.
Because listen, a lot of guys do not want to date a porn star. Now,
the vast majority, yeah.
They may mess around with one, have fun, but marry one? No.
Have you seen have you ever read those articles where or watched videos where former porn stars or even current porn stars will be like, my kids found my videos and now they're being bullied. Like,
that's a
there
nightmare.
are long-term consequences to your decisions, and I think one of the things that our culture doesn't do right now is to cultivate people to think about their future in a positive manner, right? We have a ton of people who are like, well, I don't want to have kids because it'll be a burden on my time and resources and maybe the environment, and also like they have all these reasons not to do stuff. But when they are asked to make decisions about like what could potentially bring you happiness in the future, they are often coached and I think coerced by culture into choosing immediate, fleeting, good feeling over the idea that like long term, this is a better choice, is a better
And
option.
you know what? But like Tim's, like a lot of them think that they're gonna make a lot of money because they hear about one porn star making $400,000 a month. Oh, I'm gonna make that too, and then they end up not making that, you know. But some of these people are the same people who would most likely, if OnlyFans was not a thing, they would most likely their next step is to have sex with people for money. If OnlyFans doesn't work, most of them will do that.
I don't see any difference.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
right,
I got there's this big thing that happened because I said only women on OnlyFans are hookers, and then there's there's a woman and she posts a picture of herself in her underwear with her butt sticking out. Her son takes the pictures of her.
That's so hideous.
I just messed up,
disgusting.
and I just said something like, you know, it's a hooker. I can't remember exactly what I said. There's this big outrage and like, how dare you? And not that there's anything wrong with being a hooker, but she is not a hooker. How dare you? And I was like, it's just the internet version of hooking. It's you're selling requests. Men are requesting sexual content in exchange for money. It's sure the barrier is that it's over the internet, but there's a difference between a guy like pornography is almost as bad. It's different, but it's like if a woman goes to a studio and they're like, we're gonna take a bunch of pictures and sell them later. It's like, okay, but if you're talking to a guy and he's saying, here's what I want from you and what I'll give you, and you're like, you got it, baby. I'm like, yeah, you're a hooker. Okay, that's just it. I don't know, whatever. Why are you mad about it? That's what you do.
Yeah. There's something that I read once that stuck with me. This was from George Gilder's book, Men and Marriage. What he said is that whenever we deregulate any marketplace, there ends up being completely intolerable inequalities. And the only area where we're unable to recognize that today is with sexuality. As soon as we deregulated the sexual marketplace, we began to see insane, burdensome inequalities that made people very miserable. Instead of two individual people getting married, having a family, everyone starts sleeping with everyone. A small percentage of men end up having an insane number of sexual exploits. Women end up feeling used. Everyone ends up feeling lonely. Frankly, you end up with this industry where women are more and more willing to sell pictures of their body, and then you end up even with diminishing returns on that because as more women are willing to sell those pictures, men aren't willing to pay as much for those pictures. It's destroyed so many lives, and we're not willing to talk about it because for whatever reason, we have decided that sex is this one thing that doesn't have any meaningful consequences aside from pregnancy and venereal disease. And I'm sorry, while those are certainly outcomes, they are not the only potential outcomes.
I just gotta say one thing. Imagine, some of these people are selling their body, for 50% off. You can see my kitty cat for 50% off.
Bargain bin rates.
For $2.99. Like, oh my.
I just want to say this, you're worth more than that.
That is just, it's shameful. It is.
Can I just say one thing to any man or woman who has had any involvement with any porn at any point in your life, like there is redemption for you. You can overcome it. You can repent. Don't feel that this has to define you for the rest of your life. There is a way out. Don't get started with it, but if you already started, you can stop. There's hope for you.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.